They all were standing there like, it was the day after. It looked pretty Lekavet Tishpab. Granted, there was a good psura going on, and it would have been a makam for a little simcha going, despite the Tishpab, good things were just happening, whatever. But I made a remark, and I said, if this is the way the guys always, if these guys always look happy, and today they look like this, then that's perfect. That's what it's supposed to be. But if this is the way they always look, you come into a shul and everyone's like this, that's the way they always look, then Lekavet Tishpab and Tishpab, they're looking at that's the way it is, Then you guys gotta smile in Tishpab. Do tshuva. That's why we have a Tishpab. No one smiles. You think anybody smiles as much as he should? I'm not talking about smiling. I'm talking about being thankful. What was I doing today? I don't know if I did enough of it. I spent all my time writing down all the good stuff going on in my life. That's what I did. Now, I spoke to different paiskim. I have a certain psak, Steichemet, I believe, brings it down, that learning Musar and Tishpab is gruvaldig. That's the thing to do. There are those that are against it. It's Talmud Torah. But everybody holds. They're writing down your thankfulness. Mutalach. But Tishpab, look, I'm not going to learn Dvarim. Keep the Shulchan Aruch. That's Aleph. Don't mess with that. I always, I say things that are revolutionary a little bit. And I have these things from big people, the biggest of the big, that did these things in their own lives. But I don't know if they advertise them for the public the way I do. They were, discreet. They would tell them, they would even say it here and there, but not too much. Because you got to stick to the rules. You got to Shulchan Aruch, take an Eila Megalchem, and learn Medrash Eicha, and learn about the Churban. Finish. That's what Tishpab's all about. Don't miss. Now I'm going to say something a little revolutionary, even though I have 1,000% support from Paiskim, from everybody. I still don't want to make, since that's not brought lahedya in the Shulchan Aruch. I recommend you do it in a big way, but don't forget there's a Shulchan Aruch. Stick to the rules, and I have a good reason for saying that, because everything you do in this, the best things are the things that are not the Torah Shabbat Peh. You want to hear what Gedolei Yisrael told me, stuff that they wouldn't say to the public. That's the best stuff around. You don't know. It would be Gvaldig. I'm not saying their stormy past that the world doesn't know about and how they overcame it. And if people would know their stormy past, they would stop collecting Gedolim pictures about them. Why? You're also like one of those, and you became. Some things you don't tell the public. You don't tell the public. You have to keep a certain dignity for the Gedolim. You have a certain respect for halacha. But those that disregard these things, and maybe they have a right to, because I know big people did things like this, they have to watch it because it's not healthy for themselves. Forget about the public. Don't deviate from the Shulchan Aruch, not a machu, from the rules, from what everybody does. I had a mindset today. I wasn't sure about certain things. My elder knows what I'm talking about. That wasn't pasha by me at all, even though you may get yourself tremendous inspiration by doing certain things. But if the world doesn't do it, so I check all these things with my Rabbeim. By me, I'm totally traditional. I was told by probably Kamat, the leading Rav in Gans Lakewood, told me, Mendel, you're revolutionizing the whole world, and you're getting them in a, he didn't say the word modern, but something new, you know. You're not, they don't say this. And somehow, as new as you are, you're totally connected with the past. I consider that a great compliment. It's not the first time I heard it, but hearing it from one of the leading Rabbanim made a big impression on me. That is exactly what I try to do. Stick to the rules. You know what Reform did? Chas v'chalila, to compare. People mean l'shem shemayim. Well, Shabbos is supposed to be a happy time. So, get into your car and drive to shul. And why should I be away from my wife in shul and stick her in the Ezra station? That's not nice. Let's sit together and pray. And why should I pray in Hebrew? What's wrong with praying in German? And what's wrong with got music in the Beis HaMikdash? You know, the guys that sang, you know, there was music, there's the organ. Bring it into the shul and play it on Shabbos. That's signing Shabbos and Mishagayim. That all the tzaras comes to. Do you know the Baron Kotler? Somebody heard him say Barabim. He said a whole drasha. Somebody was speaking a little bit not so kosher, and he spoke about Tishpeb, about the sources of where it's all coming from. Or Sameach says the reform started in Germany. That's why the Germans, surprise, surprise, that's how the Yetzirah works. Do you know that I had a lot of ashkachas lately? It's not normal. For some odd reason, the last 3 weeks, I want to thank Torah anytime, the Kamashkacha Pratis, Rabbi Yosef Yafi, and Kol Aloshin. I had a lot of ashkacha pratis. I recommend writing down ashkacha as much as you can. By the way, before I say another word, whoever's here now is going to 100 vadim toipam batzar mimea balitza. The schus of coming to a vad at the last hour of Tishpeb is noida noirais. You should dance for the rest of your life, even if Mandel's not even so good, or Mandel's not telling the jokes that it's not, whatever. It's something, I don't care what happens. You got Yitzchak till Shemayim. Now I'll tell you this ma'aseh that happened to me. I believe how Hashem loves me. It made such an impression on me. I'm still basking in the simcha of this. On Tishpeb, I'm full of simcha. Remember that Yirmiyah Navi wrote Eicha with Ruach HaKodesh. And to have Ruach HaKodesh, you need an extreme level of simcha. So, if I'm a simcha today, I'm just like Yirmiyah Navi, as he was writing Eicha. I'm like hoping to be there, you know. So, my simcha level is disturbing anybody. I'm just telling you, Yesha mi lismach. Yirmiyah Navi could do it. Of course, I'm not going to go in the street and act like it's Purim. I'm not going to be, I'm just saying this as a vod for people to understand that it's not pashut, the whole, and it has to be said. It's not so pashut. Anyway, listen to this. So I have my shoes that I wear throughout the year. They're like sneakers. They look like normal shoes, but there's rubber soles and there's no leather, and that's what it is. For some odd reason, in the last 3 weeks, I forgot to put them on, and I'm wearing my Shabbos shoes all 3 weeks. And I tell myself, Mendel, are you lazy? Why did you put on your regular shoes? I don't even know why. But the Rebbeinu Shalom and his goodness, then suddenly, wait, now I'm taking them off. It's halacha l'maisa. It's brought down in Shulchan Aruch. I forgot where it's brought down. Where a person should, by a shofar. Okay, I don't want to talk too much. Although there's a heta for me to speak and learning. Do you know that there's a heta for me to be ma'ayin in learning on sad stuff on Tishpeb or Shulchan? All right, Mela. But I'm not. I'm just going to say it's brought down halacha that to make a hacker show that I'm doing this for, you know. What more do you want? You sit in a law, you sit in a sukkah. in freezing weather. What's that all about? The show, it's the mitzvah. Anyway, if I'm going to wear the sneakers, the last 3 weeks I'm wearing rubber stuff without leather, and then on Tishpab I'm also doing it. And now for 3 weeks, for stupid, crazy reasons, and I'm looking down at myself as usual. Mendel, can you do things right? And I see the way the Eibishter pushed me into doing that. So I should have the schar and the schus that I changed my shoes to cover Tishpab. And it's different than what I usually do. Isn't that unbelievable? I'm on a high. I haven't had another Ashkacha Pratis where I could be more organized. Last year, I think I didn't. I have a couple of Sfarim on Tishpab, and some has a lot of notes. The keynotes. I have a few of them. I need one for my wife, for myself. I have a thing on Eich. I had a few things, and I misplaced them. I'm looking all over, and I said, Hashem, help me be more organized. I do that all the time. My tefillahs help. Tefillah Isa Mechza. I'm a little bit more organized, but could be better. But it doesn't work so great, my tefillahs, until suddenly I says, Eivish, I'm losing time. The second I said it, boom, there was a sefer. Then I needed one more sefer that I still didn't have. And again, I'm looking all over, and suddenly he said, wait, let's try that tefillah again. Eivish, I'm losing time. Boom, there's a sefer. Now the Eivish taught me, you want to get something because you're not masud or something? Say that. I don't want to waste my time. That seems to be an excellent tefillah. I want to tell you something. With parents, you have a parent that needs a Yeshua. You say, Eibishter, you created this world, kibbut avayim. You want that. Now help me out. You don't know that tefillah is a bomb. Or the other way around, the kids aren't behaving. Your children, Eibishter, there's a kibbut avayim, they're supposed to respect me. You said that in the Torah. In my experience, that type of stuff works like magic. There's certain tefillahs that are very, very powerful. It's people who have trouble with the Yetzer Hara say, you're supposed to help me out. What's going on? I know, young man, he had years of certain issues, and suddenly, as soon as he said that tefillah, boom. Be mispalo, atachenu l'adam das. The idea about atachenu l'adam das is, it's brought down, where it's in Yerushalmi, I forgot where I saw it, it's open, is, give me seichel how to daven right to you. That's the main thing. The main idea, please give me seichel, how do I pray? By the way, that's the main thing in your life. You know how to daven good. Get what you want. Anshe Knesset Agdela was smart. They got rid of Avodah Zarah. Yitzhak Avodah Zarah. They daven 3 days and 3 nights. Eibishter, what you give us this Yetzer Hara for? To give us Gan Eden. We're all getting Gehenna. It's not working. For 3 days and 3 nights they davened, Eibishter, we don't want that Yetzer Hara anymore. Erase it from the earth. Today, does anybody have a lust? I got to bow down to idols. You don't know what it sounds stupid to you. Thanks to Anshe Knesset who knew how to daven. They made the siddur. It passes for them. The ones who created the siddur, Yilchas Brachas, to get that, the tefillah that saved us from that. I would like to have get together, make my own, Chas v'shalom, with Abba Still, some B'nai Torah together, they're plenty chashiv, or this Eilam, and I'd like to daven with some other Yetzaras that I could live without. Let's get rid of some other stuff. Get in time to cover Kaz, Gaiva. The worst, what I say is the worst, Shiflus, Habahami. Shiflus Habahami is the low. It can mess you up. You don't open yourself, okay, it's fine. Leiv Nishpar. But anyway, I'm going to tell you what Rabbi Kotler said. I mentioned this, the connection. I wrote this in a B'tachon Weekly. I read it somewhere. It's Meshuna de Gamaisa. In Auschwitz, there was a very super talented musician, a Jewish musician, and the Nazis got wind of him, who this man was. And they said, you're going to perform for us. on your holy day of Yom Kippur. And they forced him to play his violin on Yom Kippur. Guess what he played? He played Kol Nidre. And when he finished playing Kol Nidre, thousands, the place was packed. The German Yamach Shemaniks were all staying there. In Auschwitz. They asked him, we want that again. I think they asked him to play it 3 times. Now, this part I'm not sure of. It probably is true. In Bטחון Weekly, I forgot where, but I wrote it over and I'm very accurate. I believe the Yamach Shemaniks didn't have a dry eye. They were actually moved to tears. I'm not sure about that last shtickle. It probably is true, but I still feel very uncomfortable. Met the mold, Gevon Tzadikim, what's going on here? And I want to tell you, my order. Moshe Mendelssohn was the beginning of the Churban of Europe. They wiped out, you know what they used to do? When they wiped out a Jewish city, they wrote a big sign, Juden rein. It's clean of Jews. You know that? You have no idea. I'll tell you another hashgacha that happened to me. For whatever reason, I'm not getting involved. Something I don't read books. I'm into learning and Musar and whatever. That's my life. Reading a book, who has time? You know? I had a reason I'm not getting involved. I took this book, which speaks about the Holocaust. And I wasn't thinking of Tishpab at all. I picked up that book, and I wasn't looking up. It came to my hands. I borrowed it, and the 9 days, I was busy with that book. I told myself, Eibishter, you're doing me such a favor with the shoes and reading appropriate. Reb Gershon Lieberman on Tishpab, I was sitting together with Reb Chaim Halpern over here, he was in Warsaw. He went through the Nazis, Yamach Shemam, he couldn't hear. And he couldn't hear, I mean, he had a lot of trouble because what they did to him, he was a Polish Jew, and he became a Novhardik. And Reb Gershon encouraged him to say over, and he told me, Reb Gershon, you got to remember that stuff. So I here we go again. I go with what my Rebbe say. Boom. If somebody has a geschmack, it'll be ma'ireh to do certain things. Everything by me, go to your Rebbe. And my Rebbe encouraged I should talk about what the Nazis did. And I'm not going to go into it because it's too scary. It's so horrible. And one thing I'll allow myself to say, Rabbi Miller mentioned that, first of all, Rishel Kotler said that the Lithuanians were worse than the Germans. My Shver Zatzal said the Hungarians were worse than the Germans. Wherever you lived, you decided the locals were worse than the Germans. And the Germans held their own. Don't worry about them. I can't describe to you what went on during the Nazi Holocaust. Horrors of horrors of horrors. You can't describe it. One thing I'm going to allow myself to say, Rabbi Miller mentioned that the minig of the Lithuanians was to slice people in half. By the way, they could do it to the Russians too. You know, but anti-Semitism held its own. When they were told to bury the bodies, that was part of there were not too many bodies that were whole. Monoliths on what they did to people. They went out of their way with axes and saws. So what they did, Hashem Yerachem, to torture the men, women, the children, what they did to them. Now, Rabbi Miller, whenever I read any of these things, something bothers me. You're missing the point. You want to know what you sinned, what a sin is all about. That's a sin. Look what it produces. Look at the unbelievable stories. You can't believe it. Now, Litha was problematic, just like Poland was problematic, and just like Hungary was plenty problematic. Unquote my Shver, who was Hungarian. Because the Welt says, and in fact, Reb Chaim Halpern told me that Hungary was better than Poland, because Poland was best friends with the non-from Jews. You got to be Makar of them. You got to be Makar of them. Now your kids are going to end up in the garbage can just like them. He told me this, Chaim Halpern. They didn't know how to deal with it properly, the Polish Jews. All of them, the Chassidim, all of them, they got messed up. The ladies stopped wearing tichl. I knew a woman, a tzadekis, and no fancy stuff, simple, not into Olam Haza, just she didn't cover her hair. What's going on here? She had tillum all day and short sleeves. That was Minig Poland by Chassidish Yidden. She was from Chassidish. Didn't make a difference. The Ger Rebbe himself once made a remark. Here we are, my Chassidim, they're knocking, and look at the ladies. And the ladies, you don't take care of the ladies, you're in trouble. Ladies have to be respected. They have to be kept stark in Yiddishkeit, because they're the mommies of the kids. Anyway, the Hungarians, it was much less, because they were separated. Some Sefer separated them. Now, he said, no, you go here, we're not friends, get lost. That was the best thing. But I just want to be married. My Shver from Hungary said, oh yeah? Hungary was terrible. They were off the derech everywhere. It was a Shrek, Neologan. They were called these reform. Anyway, so who destroyed everything? Germany was the Sheirish. Sameach mentions this, that all came from Germany. Well, the ones, let's be friends with those Germans. Moshe Mendel said, let's be like Goyim. Let's make a temple, reform temples, which is similar to a church. And let's drive to Shul on Shabbat, all that type of stuff. So that's where all the tzaras came from. The year Moshe Mendelssohn's kids said about him. The Peliot says, we have a matanim and a shamayim. That Yom Noraim, we feel a certain awe. Should I say the name? I'm not. It's a world famous baseball player, a Jew. Everybody knows what I'm talking about, unless I don't want to corrupt the younger generation. That I know so many things that they weren't exposed to. So I'm not going to say the guy's name. He's a baseball player. Anybody know what baseball is? Maybe I have to watch myself. I'm watching the new Dur. I see these little kids harving and learning, a little bubby this big. And he sits in front of me in Beis Medrash when I'm up 2 in the morning. And he harveys, walks back and forth, and there's so many of them. And when I was a kid, did they ever hear of Tinika Berech, Beis Sevet Chazal? They don't seem to know that Chazal. What's going on with these kids? They want to learn. It's married things. The Kiddush Hashem Shein Kamayim. It's a matanim and a shamayim. Anyway, so the Germans, they Yom Kippur. So he says the matana from the Abish says of the Peliates, Yom Kippur, people feel something. They feel it.
The
baseball player would not play on Yom Kippur. How come that today everybody's sharp? Because you didn't fast, because you fasted. Food messes you up. Let's get it to the fasting mode. Usually I ask guys, you remember where I'm up to? Nobody remembers. Today everybody's you didn't eat. Take a break from food. I say whenever there's a fast day, I get so excited. Oh, such an oil off my head. I don't have to eat my wife's kugel, I'm joking. I don't have to eat breakfast, lunch. It's such an oil. I don't have to eat. For an American, I don't know if you guys know what American mentality is. They're always worried maybe you didn't eat enough, you know. In America, is either you're on, everything's food. Either you're fressing or you're dieting. But food, that's what it's all about. Anyway. But it's a murdiga zichach. When you're fasting, it's very healthy for your soul. Your Yetzaharas go into the garbage. Very, very, you can do it. I was a Rebbe, I'm not so passionate doing these things. And besides, I have a normal, healthy American appetite. I'm going to give that up. I'm joking. I'm not that bad. Anyway, so what was I talking about? So this Moshe Mendelssohn, they asked his kids, he was from once. What? Did you see anything different about him in the good days? Yes. One thing was he put talis and tefillin. He was a practicing Jew. Well, how did he turn into what they called in Europe a treif and a bain? You know what that means? It's all right. What turned him into Rahman al-Islam? So his kids, became them. They married chickses. You know that? You know what's different about him? Come inside. On what a Kiddush Hashem. Such a Kiddush Hashem, a packed house. I don't believe I'd have a packed house today on tishpab. I figure out 2-3 guys have a packed house. You know how much schar you're going to get for this, Rabbi Say? For coming Levakish says Hashem on tishpab, the last hour when you're half dead, but the oil doesn't look so bad. Maybe she gives keiches. To come in here, you're going to get schar. You came to 100 vad. Toy pam batzar me meya belitzar. What a schus! 100 times a tishpab. This item is going to bring Mashiach. By the way, you're lucky you have me. Why? Because I pointed it out. The other guys you know what my wife is doing, all the ladies, everybody's busy listening to drushes, the Kiddush Hashem, they're all going to get such schar because it's a tinus and it's hard and they're still doing it, but I pointed it out. I'll tell you why that's even better. Chibi a day, that's why you tell them Malikim. You know that? If you know, it's a total different ball game. When you appreciate what you're doing, then it's 1,000 times more schar, says the Tzaddikim. You have a simcha shel mitzvah now, you know what's going on, 100 times the baloney. 1,000 times more schar because you appreciate what you're doing. What chusim you get, what gold we have. The goodness of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is beyond to give us kaiches to sit here and schmooze. And so many people, my pace is packed. Could be because I'm punked a good speaker. I'm chayshid that. That's a good pshat also. Anyway, so I guess I'm decent. What did I want to say? So the Germans, Mendelssohn. See, the guys are up. You got to start fasting from now on. Yes, Mendelssohn. So what did he do? So they said, Yom Noraim, he didn't feel. He didn't feel Yom Noraim. By him it was Purim. That's why you got to be careful when I talk. I talk a lot about taking it easy, and I talk a lot about, and don't forget, it's Teshuvah. Anyway. So so what was I saying? Now, Rabbi Shol Salanta was the one who went to war against Haskalah. There's no word for that man. Rabbi Aaron used to shake when he said his name. Shol Salanta. He was connected all the Gdolim of his time. I heard this lashon. I heard from Rav Kanarik, I believe. There were Anashia Gdoli Yisrael in his door. He was bigger than all of them. He was a Rees. He was the one who picked himself up on Adam Gadol Yisrael and went to Paris. Those days you didn't travel so fast. To take a trip to Paris to be Makar. First Kiruv, Rabbi Shol Salanta, take a trip to Paris. He was going off the derech, and he went all out to save it. It's unbelievable. Well, number one, his issue to attack this Haskalah. The number one was Elul. Now, what's Elul? Yerushalayim, Yom Noraim, Musar. His whole thing, Musa means Yerushalayim. There's a guy who keeps the whole Torah mitzvahs, Mendelssohn, but he's not scared of Yom Noraim, but there's no Yerushalayim. So it is the Nazis thinks the Nazis are rotten people. they heard Kol Nidre, and they started crying. What's going on here? They saw the Sheirish. You aim at the Sheirish of the whole Nazis, the whole everything. It's Chatoyim, whatever. Shmo Rabbi Yossi, who was it? The one. He was a good-looking Bacharul. And Rabbi Yechon Mizak, who was it?
Sure. The son of Rabbi Shmo.
Rabbi Shmo, who?
Shmo Ken Gadol.
Shol Ken Gadol saw him.
Oh, yeah.
He saw this beautiful. No, that was him. Who was the Tana that saw this beautiful-looking Bacharul? Rabbi Shua?
Oh, no. That was Shimon HaTzadik.
Shimon HaTzadik?
No, you're not in the arm.
Yeah, there we go. We got Shas right here. So anyway, that's why they say Sinai Odif. It's good to have Sinai around. Anyway, so when he saw this beautiful-looking kid, and he says, and he saw this boy, and that beautiful means he saw something there, and he said, Ni nasalem shisa Yaakov. Rabbi Shua. And what did he answer? Allah's is Teirasi. Am I right? He said, who caused this whole Torah? Kill those Romans! Those wicked Romans. I don't like none of the Holocaust books because it gets you angry at the Gentile nations. That's the whole tachlis. Maybe you should be. I'm not getting involved, but that's not the yiki. You're missing the main point. Al-Azam is Teirasi. You do tshuva. And it's a different ball game. The main thing is our sins. We'll do tshuva, and these guys will melt away. It's very interesting that in Tells, I read about in Tells, they did some unbelievable things. Avram Yitzchak Bloch, Rashiva of Tells, when they told him to do things, he was mamish. Tells and Novandig in certain ways get along great. He ignored him. He said, no, I'm giving a drasha to my, and they left him alone. He pulled a few of those things. They left him alone. They mamish, the Shahs, they wanted to make the Rav do some bazillion things. So the Rav's brother, some other guy there says, doesn't pass for the Rav, I want to do it instead. And they saw that, they're so amazed, they left them both alone. That wasn't typical of them. There's a lot of Kedusha in Tells. I want to say about that there was a few such stories where they backed off. You know, they backed off. I'll tell you that Reb Shmuel David Unger, Reb Chaba Weissmandel's father-in-law, the Niger Rav. He was in the middle of Kriyas HaTorah. How did the story go? He was in the middle of davening when they came in. I'm in the middle of davening, and they left him alone. You know that? Then, of course, you have Reb Gershon Lieberman. No better stories than his. Novandig, healthy gaiva. I got to be better than everybody. That's Reb Gershon. You know who once said that? Rabban Kreiser. In learning, he once gave a zog. He said it. I want to check it out with his. He gives. When I learned, I want to show I'm better. You need a certain. Reb Gershon once said, "There's no b'di'evet and ruchnius. I got to be top. He had a choice of going with, and they were taught to have a thrill, and they loved fighting the Yetzer Hara. They had a geschmack. Who could do better? Reb Gershon had to prove. I'm not sure how much there was. Slabotke had Kina Sefer, that I know. They used the Alta would compete. They had these things. In Novandig, I know that the idea of Reb Gershon said, there's no b'di'evet and ruchnius. No, I want to make top dollar. I want to be better than everybody. You know, there was a Kina Sefer in Yerushalayim with Rabbi Shol Yaakov Fisher. Him and his friends, they were learning at Eitz Chaim. They each decided who could be a bigger masmid. And each one stayed up. I was up later than you. Of course, they knew what they were doing. But one says, Rabbi Miller, how does a person become a Gadol B'Yisrael? Sleep 8 hours. How do you become a Gadol B'Yisrael? Sleep 8 hours. But I want to become a Gadol. Sleep 8 hours. Don't be a Chacham. You'll end up with nothing. That's a show. I know stories of Shem Yerachim. Be normal. Ooh, that's all. But anyway, they went a little overboard. They knew what they were doing, and that's how they died. You saw Yaakov Fisher was a Gain Olam, Tzaddik Yisei Olam, and they had a Kinah Sefer situation. Now, in Novandig, Reb Gershon had to do it like nobody else. Here's a story I heard from Rav Galinsky. I heard it in Peg Koche. When I first heard about Novandig, I heard that everybody ended up in Siberia. All the Novandigers except for Reb Gershon. He wasn't there, something didn't work. So I went to Reb Gershon, and he says, how come you ended up in Germany with the Nazis, and you didn't end up with the Russians? Like the rest of the Novandig ended up in Siberia with the Russians. So he said, I'm a tippish. He says on himself, I'm not really scared, that's my nature. And I was curious. I heard so much about the Germans. I wanted to see, what's this all about? He told that to me. I was curious. Sakrunis. He didn't speak normal Hebrew. Sakranut. No. Sakrunis. Let's say it right. In fact, I happen to be very insulted. My Uncle Manas was insulted, saying everything Sfaradit. I have a different way. Sakrunis, let's say it right. What's a sakranut? Okay, that's Sfar. I respect you for you, but I'm an Ashkenaz. Sakrunis, yeah, let's say it right. Reb Gershon talked like that all his life, and nobody laughed. And he had to deal with all these Sfardim, and he spoke, and not only that, but they started imitating him. He used to say, kavod, you shouldn't look for kavod. He never said, ever, no one ever heard him say kavod. Kuvid, atem roitzim, kuvid, ze loy toiv. Kein, tzrichim, liot, Yerushalayim, he spoke normal. Not these fardit, where does that come from? Oh, the Tziyonim, oh. Kazer Eva Kadesh. Should I be a shtickle kanoi? You want to hear some kanois for the fun of it at least? The one who made up modern Hebrew. I don't want to say his Treifa name on Tishpeb. They say V'shem Rishayim Yirkav on him. They say he's a front row seat with V'shem Rishayim Yirkav. I don't know. But anyway, he was from the worst. The guy that made up Ivrit Hachadasha. All right, we do it. I'm not going to. I'm getting carried away. Oh, what's better? Asam Chassid in Eretz Yisrael. And I says, where do you live? He says, Bayis Vegan. I says, oh, it mean Bayis Vegan? No. Bayis Vegan. Was that tough? It was soft. What's going on here? And he says, Mefal Tarai. It was good. I liked it. Anyway, so where am I up to? How to get into this?
Gershon. Gershon,
leave him in. He wanted to see at Sakrunis. He told this to me. So I went to Galinsky. I said, are the Kanois? I said already. I said what I think of the guy who made up the Hebrew language. He was one of the Shai. I don't want to say how he was. To say he wasn't a tzaddik is putting it mild. There are different levels of tzionim, better ones, worse ones. All of them were, not quite. But they say he was miuchad in his whatever he was, which I don't want to talk about. Privately, boy, I'm going to tell you stories. I would be very interesting if I opened up what they said about him. Oh boy. But anyway, he was pretty bad. And he's make sure. No, I was once in Eretz Yisrael, and I was standing by the bus, and I was a bacher there, and I had to ask when is the bus leaving. So there was some two old people over there, not from, and they were saying, I said, when is it? Mataya autobus nosea. I spoke like I tried it with the reish, say it right, the way they do it. And they turned, look, and I just told that sentence I knew how to say. He said, they told me that. You know how to speak good Hebrew. You should be proud. I wasn't so proud of that stuff. I'd rather speak Yiddish. Did I say something wrong? Too much kanais. No, I have to watch it. Anyway, You know what the Nussin said about Yiddish? You know who made that up? Or Marami Rutenberg. Yiddish is Kaddish Kadashim. You know that? That's a push it. Anyway, the G'dayli Yisrael said we're going to do it like this. So what was I talking about? The Reb Gershon. I went to Reb Gershon of Acma. Yeah, so then I went to Reb Galinsky. I says, is that true? He ended up with the Germans because he was curious. He wanted to see them. So he burst out laughing. It's not true. I was there. I saw the whole business. He was in Bialystok. That was the Novandig main branch. And the Shabbos came, and the Nazis were right outside. And they were told, you're allowed to leave the yeshiva on Mimachal Shabbos, get out of this place. So by the way, that last Shabbos, they couldn't sing Zmiris, if you understand. But Reb Gershon was there. And what what's going on here? Shabbos Kaddish. He was danced on the tables. Reb Gershon danced on the tables and made the whole place knocking. It was mamish simchas Torah. When the Nazis were right outside, ready to come in. You have no idea how cruel they were. When the Jews in Palestine heard that the Germans are 1 foot away from us, they're one by one ready to jump off roofs. We don't want to get near them because they used to torture, and they were so cruel. Shem Yirachem. So he can't be masik, and Novandig was dancing on the tables thanks to Reb Gershon. He's the leader. Anyway, but they all left on Shabbos. A lot of them left, except for 60 Bachrim said, we're staying. Well, let the Germans get us. But we're not going to the Russians. They're going to start up with my tefillin, and my tzitzis, and my Yiddishkeit, Shmad. We're staying right here. 60 Novandigers. Everyone else went to Vilna. All the yeshiva were in Vilna. But Vilna was under the Russians were. So Reb Gershon had to be better than everybody. Rabbi Ram Yafen was Rosh Yeshiva. How many people heard this story? You didn't hear it? He said like this. Rabbi Ram Yafen, the leaders were in the biggest trouble. They chepper with them the most. And Reb Gershon, so Avram Yafen said, I will not be Machal Shabbos. If they get me, let them get me. Shabbos, I'm not going to travel to go to Vilna. Well, Motzei Shabbos, I'm leaving. And Reb Gershon was one of the 60 Bachrim. Another one, Galinsky was one of them. You know, he wasn't a popular person. One of those 60 that said, I'm staying with the Germans. You know what that is? And Reb Kahas Borak was in it. Anyway, so I can't let the Yeshiva go alone. When there's people, it's a bedlam. World War II, you have a musig with bullets, with metal flying all over the place, with ambulances screeching, with sirens, with people. You know what? I'll give you in a description. Nekritz describes the whole city, the whole population was flying from one end of the city to the other and running, not knowing where to go. It was Shreklach. World War II. The people going out of their minds. And in the middle of all this, and the danger is every move you make. It's sakonas and fashis. Reb Gershon Liebman, I can't let the Rosh Yeshiva go alone. I'm going to take him. And he took him all the way to Vilna, to Yosef. All the yeshiva were in Vilna then. They all got together. And now I am going back to the Germans. Did you hear this? He went lachatchila to the Germans, Reb Gershon. I took care of him. Now he went back to the Germans. Germans hung around for a few days. It was Elul, you know that? Elul, Salandi used to scream, Elul, why aren't you scared of Elul? That was his biggest thing. People aren't scared of Elul. That's the Churban. You're not afraid of Elul. You gotta know how to do that. And you have to do it in a positive way. Okay, Mela. Anyway. So what happened? So the Nazis suddenly disappeared. They had their shtick, well, I don't know why they did this or that. And all those 60 guys, the Novandigas, went to Vilna. Because the yeshiva was closed, and all the yeshivas regrouped in Vilna. Each yeshiva found a different area in Vilna, and they continued learning. All the yeshivas were together at that kufa. They were hoping, who knows what. You know that Reb Gershon Liebman went to Slobodka. He went to Avram Grudzinski, and he said, I'm not running away from those guys. Let's get together all the yeshivalites and fight them back. He was going to make a stand against them. We're going to learn no matter what. Get them back. I said, good. And this is the start of Reb Gershon. So Avram Grudzinski was a Malach Hashem Tzvaka. He said, Slobodka is not Novanhardok. It's okay. Slobodka is plenty good. We can't do that type of stuff. He was ready. Let's go to war. What's the problem? Chofetz Chaim bought a stack of rifles. I heard it from Shurkin, said this over. I heard it from Dov Lenches. Shurkin said, Radin Yeshiva, to fight the communists, the Chofetz Chaim himself came into the base medrash with a stack of rifles. Let's go to war. Let's fight the communists. They say Reb Chaim Moshe had to stop him. Chofetz Chaim was the Novanhardok style. They were like, not involved in Teva. What's Teva? Let's show. So Reb Gershon ended up in Vilna. Suddenly, Siberia, under arrest. When people heard they were going to Siberia, there's a Bach and Ebach who went Meshuggah. People cracked up. When they shepherded the ladies over there and pulled away their kids from them, there was screams were inhuman, and then there was a lady that burst out laughing. She cracked up. Shem Yirach. And this Bacha cracked up. It made you, it was Shreklach. This Bacha started dancing with the KGB guy, Simchas Torah Nigunim, because he went out of his mind when he heard he's going to Siberia. Siberia was, one of the guys that found that he's going to Siberia, he cried the beginning of the night till the end. I don't want to go to Siberia. I heard from when I was Gehenna of Gehenna. You can't be massing what Siberia was. For everybody, except for Reb Gershon Lieberman. Gershon Lieberman, he didn't apply. All the Novanhardok was stuffed into a train. Reb Gershon, you're not going. Why? He comes from a different town. You don't qualify. Good. See, these guys are helping me today. You don't qualify. So what did Reb Gershon do? Gershon doesn't qualify. I'm not going to Siberia. Whoever wasn't going was dancing in the streets from Simcha. Whoever was not going was Mamash and Gan Eden. And Reb Gershon was also one of those. And he wasn't jumping in the streets. He was crying like a baby. Galinsky told me this. He saw the Trans-Siberian Railroad started moving. Reb Gershon went to the office, the place where the KGB Chaver, NKVD they were called those days. Siberia. No. Yes. Siberia. Siberia. You? No. Reb Gershon. Reb Gershon said, why not me? How could you leave me out? All my friends are going to suffer and me not. That was Reb Gershon. I remember the train was pulling out and Reb Gershon was standing on the platform crying like a baby that he couldn't come along to Siberia. You have a musig what a malach alikim that man was. How did he do it? He had musa. Now look, what am I going to get out of that story? But at least the Eibishter sees we have a desire. You know how lucky we are? Do you know that since the Churban, you know that the gates of Tefillah are locked? It's a Gemara. Shari Tefillin and Alu. You got to cry. I went to the Skolya Rebbe once spoke. He said, there are two forms of, I heard this from myself, the Alta Skolya Rebbe. There was an issue, Maifas, who was all the Gedolim held the belt from him. He said, there are two kaiches hara, the happy ones and the sad ones, Lilas. I don't know what's going on with these spooky type of things, but they kill each other all the time. And they're in the atmosphere, no one sees them. They are the products of people's sins. They're all over the place, and they're always fighting. And the reason why when a person davens, the tefillah is able to reach, a tefillah should go straight up to Shemayim. But the sins do not allow tefillahs to go. They don't move because of sins. So one mazel that these two types of kaiches hara, the happy types and the sad types, they are always fighting. They don't like each other. So in between the cracks of their movement, that's where tefillah goes up and reaches Kisi HaKavod. That's what he said. I heard him say this. Then he said, when the Churban Beis HaMikdash took place, they all made peace. They were so happy. All the Katrigim, all the Be'er Malachim, all the Malachi Chabola, I don't know whatever these types of creatures, whatever they are, they made peace when the Churban Beis HaMikdash took place. And now you want to daven, you better really daven. Unless you join Mendel and you become a Baal B'tachon. You know what the Ramchal says? Ramchal says that a tefillah of a Baal B'tachon is a different world. Be a Baal B'tachon, you crack through any tefillah, you'll get anything you want. So imagine the matzav today where it's locked in. Tefillahs don't, the etzim really work. It's a whole asik. Do you know how much schar we are getting since the Churban has gone? That we have to muchizach and tefillah and try, is it going to work, is it that, and spend 40 days and spend this and working on b'tachon. How many people come to me crying their eyes out, I worked on b'tachon, it's not happening, and it's like, I worked on tefillah and I daven, it's not happening. You know how much, if you're going to be in action, today is an Eis Ratzon. I recommend everybody say, before the day's over, I want the power of Dirshi Hashem Matzah Krub Yosef Karev. Tishpab Mashiach was born today. Today's the Krubim were hugging each other. Today's a father. Aaron HaKayan's Yortzai was Chodesh, loving everybody. That's the whole Chodesh is full of love. We don't chap. A father has to give a patch, but it's love. It's just the opposite of what you think it is. It's not Atzvah, it's Zavel, it's a total different world. So take the kaiches of Tishpab. The tefillah, I once had a big maifas on Tishpab. There was a serious shalom bayis issue, and I was a spal, and they said, Eibishter, like the Kruvim were best friends, let these two get together. That day I had a big Yeshua. But a certain shalom bayis. So you don't make a way so they must spal the power of Tishpab. It should work. I'll daven later. I think about the show gives that. I do it on Nila, do it all the time. You know it's Eitz Ratzon. By Mincha time, you open the Aron Kodesh on Shabbos Mincha. When he's Filosei L'cha Hashem Eis Ratzon, daven of anything you want. It's an Eis Ratzon. Now you get it. Now you got to be in action. I tried it, nothing happened. Hashem wants to give you Ratzah Kodesh Baruch Hu L'Zakis Israel. Be in action. Be in action. Keep davening. Don't be in a spell. Keep davening or start accepting. You know what I was busy doing?